Did you ever notice that when you don't have love, all of a sudden you have legalism? Like, if you don't have love in your heart and you're not using forgiveness, something has to fill that hole, and religion comes in and it makes you do all the right things all of a sudden, right? It's like you have everything, like, it's like when you don't want to forgive somebody and you don't want to give somebody love, you know, then it seems like you'll do anything else. You're like, well, I'm tithing. You always hear this too, like, especially from like Christians who are being convicted of forgiving. They'll be like, oh, I'm praying a lot. I'm tithing. I'm doing it all, and they're really supposed to go and forgive. And I would, there's people out there that say, you don't have to go to that person. You can just do it in your heart. And I would say, you need to face your fear, and you need to go to that person. You need to make it right. And you need to go tell that person, hey, you know what? I don't care what happened in the past, or whatever is going to go on in the future. I forgive you. I'm just saying, no matter what. If you try to tick me off real bad after this, all I'm going to do is try to my best to forgive you. You see what I mean? Because, like, some people, like me, I had my breakthrough when I went to that person that I had to forgive. Like, I've had multiple breakthroughs because I went to people. So I see this all the time, and I've heard my own pastor talk about it. Hey, you don't have to go, you don't have to be around that person anymore. You can forgive that person, and you don't have to be around that person. That's fine, but you have to go to that person first and forgive them, or else they just think that things are up in the air. If one person thinks that there's things up in the air, and they think that you're still offended, or they think that things are not right between both of you guys, isn't that just as bad? Be honest. If you know that somebody has a problem with, if you know that somebody has a problem with you, or somebody you see what I'm saying? If you know that there's some animosity out there between you and somebody else, and they know it, right? You know that they know that there's beef between you guys, right? That's why you need to go to those people and forgive, okay? Because if you know they know, and they don't think that it's cool between y'all, that's a problem. Because then they're still harboring that, and they don't know what to think. They think you still have unforgiveness, and that's just as bad as having unforgiveness, right? Because you're not clarifying it. You haven't made it clear that you don't hate them, right? And you want to forgive them. I feel like it's just as bad, because that's why, because my breakthroughs have came from going to people that I had to go forgive. Okay, I had to go face my fear, and I had to go because we're afraid of these people. They harmed us. They traumatized us. You're afraid of what you're gonna do. You're afraid of what they're gonna do. You're afraid. You have fear, and you can't have love if you have fear. You see what I'm saying? If you have fear in your heart and you're afraid of that person, that's not going to work. So you have to go to that person, and you have to say, hey, you know what? I'm sick of having this fear in my heart because of you. I don't care what you do. And, you're probably going to offend me again, but I forgive you. If they're really toxic, right? But because, like, you have to forgive somebody 70 times 7. Like, people were asking Jesus, like, how many times am I supposed to forgive somebody? It's like over and over and over again, right? So you have to be open to forgiving them more. I'm saying that you don't have to hang out with those people. When I was in church, the pastor talked about forgiveness, and he said, you don't have to hang out with that person anymore. And the person in front of me, she goes, amen. And I didn't hear her utter a word the whole sermon. That's what all she was happy about, is not having to hang out with a person that was so toxic, and that she had to forgive, but she doesn't want to talk to that person anymore. And I'm sitting there going, well, if you're that ticked off still that you don't want to hang out with that person at all, you know, and that person really makes you mad, have you forgiven them from your heart? You know, I know these people really do get under our nerves, and they're really trying to hurt us, and they're really trying to offend us again. But if you haven't gone to that person and say, hey, you know, I forgive you and all that, are you really that upset about even like seeing them again, like in passing? Like, you don't really have to see these people all the time, but I do put out videos that talk about how you're supposed to deal with toxic people, because you might be married to somebody, you might have somebody at your work, you might have somebody in your family, you know, you might have a kid, who knows, a cousin, who somebody, brother, sister, whatever, you know, I'm not leaving out any possibility, because people are people, right? So it's just like anybody could be offending you over and over again. And so it's like, oh, you don't have to hang out with that person. It's like, well, that doesn't mean like as soon as they come over, you just bail, because you just, you know what I mean? You give them, you don't look at them, you don't talk to them, and you just leave. I mean, what are you talking about? What are we talking about here? It's like, do you want to call them up and go to a movie with them? No. But what do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, we're supposed to be trying to live in peace with these people. So I know it's really hard, but sometimes, but it's really not that hard sometimes too, to just say, hey, you know what? I forgive you, and blah, blah, blah. And just using the words forgiveness and talking about forgiveness unlocks things, and it unlocks, it gives deliverance. I remember, sometime not even that long ago, when I said that, it came out of my mouth, and I was sitting there going, oh, I didn't even know that. Just like the Lord spoke through me, and He gave me a word of knowledge, like, all right, there on the spot. And I didn't even know that. You know, I've never even thought about it before. But I said, just speaking about forgiveness can deliver people. And I was sitting there going, oh, I didn't even know that. You know? Because, you know, when you remind people about forgiveness, then they do a heart check, and they get in touch with their heart. Sometimes we're just so distracted that we're not getting in touch with our heart and not knowing how we really feel about people or things, and we're just happy to like be distracted. But in reality, we need to go make things right. And our time here is short, and things change, people change. I've told somebody, you know, about how they have to go forgive, and the Lord was telling me, hey, you don't have a lot of time to do this. And I told them, hey, you don't have a lot of time to do this. I'm wondering why you're taking your time to do this. We've had all this discussion about forgiveness, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's very rare that I'm having all this conversation about this with one person over and over and over again. I'm super like, you know, whatever you got to do, you got to go do it. You know, and the Lord told me, like, you know, hey, you're running out of time. And that's why I told him, hey, you're running out of time. And guess what happened? That person's, the person that they were supposed to forgive died. And then the rest of the family that they were supposed to forgive or even matter at each other after the fact, because of things, how they got more torn apart because of the drama, and I can't get into it. But it's like, you know, we don't have a lot of time. You don't know what these decisions, what the next decision is going to lead to. And so I just want to say, hey, go make peace with each other. Go make peace with as many people as you possibly can. And if that person's on your heart constantly, if that person keeps coming up in your heart and you haven't just said, you know what, I'm just going to call that person, or I'm going to text them and say, hey, you know what, I just want to let you know, everything between me and you is, I never really wanted to hurt you, and I just wanted you, I know we've been through a lot, in our relationship. We've been through a ton of stuff. I just want to say, hey, if I ever hurt you, that's not what I wanted to do. That's deep down, that's not what I really wanted to do. I didn't really want to do that. Deep down, that's not what I was intending to do. And I'm sorry how that went down and how it shook out. But that's where I'm at. That's not where my heart was at. I wasn't really trying to hurt you. I really wasn't trying to kill our relationship. That's not really where my head was at. I was hurt. I was just hurting. I was hurting. And I did something or said something, and in my pain, in my weakness, and and so, and everyone can relate to that. And if they can't, they're lying. So I just want to say, I hope that encouraged somebody to go out and make that really hard phone call, make that really hard text, whatever God's putting on your heart, because if somebody else thinks that there's something in limbo, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. If somebody else thinks that you're really ticked off at them, you have to go say, hey, you know what, I want to bury the hatchet. If somebody out there thinks that you just want to kick their butt and everything, that's not the right answer. So you got to go out there and say, hey, you know what, I forgive you anyways. Even though you're a total pain in my rear end, I forgive you. All right? So, all right, I love y'all.